Sorry. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Poverty's Voice. And we're going to talk about Mr. Carlson, Tucker Carlson. I love me some Tucker Carlson every now and then. Not in the way that conservatives love Tucker Carlson. I just like me some Tucker Carlson, you know? I just like watching Tucker Carlson and hating my life sometimes. I apologize. I will be blunt. Whoever joins this, whether conservative, liberal, progressive, I am progressive. I do look for discussions on this, and if you have an opinion, I'm going to be quite vicious against Tucker, but hopefully if you have a comment or something, we can have a discussion. So, I'm going to play a clip from, I think this is Vice. Yeah, it's Vice. So this is just an overall idea of what's happening in California, Oregon, Washington, all those states currently. And we're going to address Tucker Carlson's very recent piece on climate change and what I think is an entire fallacy altogether. But, so yeah, let's go ahead and hit that.
California's in flames again, and breaking records again. This year's fires have scorched more than 3.1 million acres so far, surpassing the 2018 record of 1.96 million acres. At one point, parts of the state had some of the world's dirtiest air. In Santa Cruz, the air quality index spiked to 351. Anything above 300 is considered dangerous. And Los Angeles is suffering the worst smog in 30 years. Record temperatures are just making things worse. A lingering heat wave created the perfect conditions for infernos. Los Angeles boiled to 121 degrees Fahrenheit. On August 16th, Death Valley topped out at 130 degrees Fahrenheit, making it the highest temperature recorded on Earth in over 100 years. Sacramento was on track to break an 11-day record streak of triple-digit heat set in 2006. Fire officials said they'd never seen fires move so fast.
Those temperatures alone are just insane. Like, that is absolutely insane.
Fast, going 15 miles through the Sierra National Forest in one day. The flames also exhibited unprecedented features, including at least 4 fire tornadoes. And only 2 fire tornadoes have been documented in California before. And it looks like California may be in it for even worse. A key ingredient is missing for the moment that will set off part 2 of this fire season: the Santa Ana winds. Those extreme dry gusts coming from the Great Basin, coupled with global warming, will make California's dry environment even drier, and it may have a devastating impact in the weeks to come.
So yeah, that was from Vice News. That's just a piece. It's not really an opinion piece, other than if you believe or not believe in global warming, then I guess that is an opinion piece. I don't know how to help you there, but so let's go ahead and look at Tucker Carlson. Let's go watch some Tuck, some off the rails Tuck, science denial Tuck. Yeah, I don't know. I have bad nicknames, so let's just watch him.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Massive wildfires, unprecedented in their scope, continue to sweep across huge portions of the West tonight. In Oregon, 500,000 residents have been forced to evacuate their homes. That's 1 of every 10 people in the entire state. Dozens are dead, including small children. But the fires still are not close to contained. Watch this report from Fox's Jeff Paul.
Months of tinder dry conditions added to days of high winds and hot temperatures, creating a perfect firestorm across the West. California is one of the hardest hit, with a record-breaking 3 million acres burned and nearly 4,000 homes and buildings lost so far. A 12-year-old boy and his grandmother are among the latest deaths. The flames are spreading so fast, it really doesn't give people much time to get out. The fire's also taking a toll in Washington state, where more than 100 homes are gone, and a 1-year-old boy died as his family tried to flee the flames. And in Oregon, more than 35 fires are burning, with at least 5 small towns destroyed. Resources across the West are stretched thin.
It is awful, and it continues as we speak right now. Walls of flame consuming everything in their path. Homes,
Pay attention to this, because
thousands,
this is
untold numbers of
it
animals.
gets important.
And of course, as you said, human beings too. It is tragedy on a massive scale. When something this terrible happens, decent people pause. They put their own interests aside for a moment. They consider how they can help. We've seen that kind of selflessness before in this country. This is, remember, the anniversary of 9/11. But there are others for whom altruism is an unknown concept. Self-interest is all they know. These people do not pause. They never do. They relentlessly press forward for any advantage under any circumstances. They see human suffering as...
See, I think he's making a false equivalency there. That's my opinion. He's opened up with this idea that there's a tragic event, and people... Seems weird in my head to say this, that individuals should be proposing changes to prevent things right after they happen. I know there's a political line there, because when you say that climate change, this is caused by climate change, you've already crossed into someone's opinionated territory. And then at that point, if you say we should change it, then you've entered a political line. Now, if you apply that to anything else outside of politics, I don't know if it really matters. Like, there's things that we have consensus on. So, example, a famous individual X dies of an overdose. And people immediately start saying, we need campaigns to teach individuals about health, safety, some sort of campaign that's like, hey, don't overdose on this drug for whatever reason. It could be an awareness on addiction, things like that. So that campaign goes out. That's normal. That's accepted in culture and society. But when it crosses a political boundary, there seems to be some problems that arise. You start making some people upset. You start, whatever that is. Some problems arise out of that, and you start getting people who. So I think that's a false equivalency. I don't think that's even a justification of saying, that's even an argument that, hey, you can't propose certain changes to things that are bad. We should be unifying right then and there. I just don't know. I don't know. We'll keep going. That's not really that important, but we'll keep going.
Means to increase their personal power. These are the people who turn funerals into political rallies and feel no shame for doing it. As Americans burned to death, people like this swung into action immediately. They went on television with a partisan talking point. Climate change, they said, caused these fires. They didn't explain how exactly that happened. How did climate change do that? They didn't tell us, but they just kept saying it. In the hands of Democratic politicians, climate change is like systemic racism in the sky. You can't see it, but rest assured it's everywhere, and it's deadly. And like systemic racism, it is your fault. The American middle class did it. They caused climate change.
In a way, the guy's got a point. We don't, politicians, everyone who claims to have some righteous mindset about whatever issues they have, will claim something's happening, and they don't explain it very well to people that don't agree with them. So, for example, personally, I think the movement, Black Lives Matter movement, is people are going out into the streets and they're saying, you're bad for not agreeing with us, but they're not explaining what the hell they're doing in the streets. Like, that's a problem. Like, explain why you're there, what your motives are, and maybe people will side with you. When you start going out and you just say, hey, you're an evil person for disagreeing with me, and you start throwing things at people, or you start making people upset because you're damaging their property, their businesses, or whatever, that you're interrupting their lifestyle without any reason whatsoever, which may be valid. Of course, the issue may be valid and it may be righteous, but if you don't give people a reason for what you're doing, then you're making people mad. So, sure, politicians, the same thing goes with climate change. People are terrible at explaining the impact of climate change, why we know it's a real issue, a lot of the scientific basis. Does that rely on the scientific community? Does that rely on individuals? I for certain don't want to say Yes or no? But it's important. Is it important? Yeah, it's important. I'll give you that. It's important. But otherwise, all right. Let's keep going.
They ate too many hamburgers. They drove too many SUVs. They had too many children. A lot of them wear T-shirts to work and didn't finish college, and that causes climate change too. And worst of all, some of them may vote for Donald Trump in November. And if there's anything that absolutely, definitively causes climate change, and literally over 100% of scientists agree with this established fact, it is voting for Donald Trump. You might as well start a...
I mean, it contributes. Voting for Donald Trump definitely contributes. Like, yeah. Of course it does. Not that... Oh, sorry. I just slammed the mic. I'm thinking very carefully. Yes, voting for Donald Trump does contribute to climate change. He has actively reduced restrictions. He's done lots of negative things, at least in a utilitarian stance, for having any hope at all of improving our climate scenario. So, sure, if we agree on the science, voting for Donald Trump is yes, it does. But he's making it seem like that's the main point. No. People driving big SUVs don't really do much. Don't really have that great of an impact. The emissions are mostly the responsibility of big corporations who give over, 70, 80? It might even be 90. I don't remember the statistic. I need to go back and look. But they give out a massive majority of the emissions. These huge corporations that get these breaks and they need to be penalized for this because they have no punishment, and as long as they're continuing to make profits at the rate in which they're going, and they maximize their profits this way, they're going to continue doing it. I don't see why they wouldn't. I personally don't believe capitalism is inherent. It's based on any inherent ethical outlook. So I just don't think that it's going to correct itself without some sort of government intervention, and that's just the case here. That's an opinion, but otherwise, no. Who cares if what's his or her name, or some dude out here in the rural area is driving a giant truck, and he maybe even be poor in the poor area. They're driving these giant trucks that emit huge amounts of whatever that comes out of the back of them. That doesn't really matter compared to the corporations. Middle class people with SUVs don't matter. They don't. It just doesn't.
Hire fire in your yard. Joe Biden has checked the science, and he agrees with this.
Great.
Yesterday, the people on Biden's staff who understand the internet tweeted out an image of the wildfires along with this message, quote, "Climate change is already here, and we're witnessing its devastating effects every single day. We have to get President Trump out of the White House," end quote. So once again, by voting for Donald Trump, you are causing climate change, which causes devastating fires. You, by your vote, have made hundreds of thousands of Oregonians homeless tonight.
Uninformed individuals about climate change are not ethically responsible. I don't think. I think it's an issue of information and science literacy in the country. That I personally think that's the case, and I don't think many people blame individuals for putting other economic priorities before it without understanding the science. Though that is a fault of the education system. Number two. No, what was my point? Hang on. Let's hear that again.
By voting for Donald Trump, you are causing climate change, which causes devastating fires.
It's back to the companies. It is the companies that are doing this. They're the ones that need to be punished.
By your vote, have made hundreds of thousands of Oregonians homeless tonight. You've murdered people. Joe Biden's closest friend in the world, a prominent kite surfer on Martha's Vineyard called Barack Obama, echoed that message with his trademark restraint. Obama declared that your life depends on voting for Joe Biden. Well, hold on a minute, you might ask. Doesn't this very same Barack Obama own a $12 million spread right on the ocean in Massachusetts? At a time when sea levels are rising so fast, we're about to see killer whales in the rock.
God, I'm an idiot. It just really clicked with me how powerful that is, because those things, flying a jet across or whatever, aren't really the big contributor to emissions. Drive. How do I say this? Manufacturing, certain farming emissions, all these things, they're huge contributors. Driving an SUV, not so much. It really is not. Driving an SUV is not that big of a deal comparatively. So if lots of people, and I hope companies will not be wanting to create these really terribly emitting vehicles, it's not the individual purchasing, it's the companies that are making these. And the companies that are, it's not even the SUVs themselves or what individuals are doing by flying jets, it's the manufacturing in countries and industrialization that really, really leads to most of the emissions. Like a huge percentage. It's not the individual. It's not flying a jet. It's not these things.
Well, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem like Barack Obama could be very concerned about climate change. And by the way, didn't Obama go to law school? When did he become a scientist? Those seem like reasonable questions. On the other hand,
I guess.
Lawyers pretending to be scientists are now everywhere in the Democratic Party. Here, for example, is the governor of Washington State.
I mean, whoa. Off topic. Funny little comparison. I don't think it's false equivalency, but Fox News seems very, very adamant to support Donald Trump's advocation for hydrochloroquine, even though he's not a doctor. He is not a doctor. Just like Obama is not a climate scientist. But Trump is not a doctor. But when Trump says something, oh, he's a doctor, I get. Well, they don't say that. But they treat him like one. God. Jesus Christ. Keep going.
University Law School. He's explaining that he's already figured out the...
Like what? Seriously. I just noticed the complete and utter hypocrisy that comes from that. It is terrible. The hypocrisy is... Alright. It's hilarious. It's just hilarious.
Cause of the fires. Watch.
And these are conditions that are exacerbated by the changing climate that we are suffering. And I do not believe that we should surrender these subdivisions or these houses to climate change exacerbated fires. We should fight the cause of these fires.
So I mismanaged my state, now it's on fire, you're required to give me more power.
So I mismanaged my state, now it's on fire, and you're required to give me more power. What a damn straw man. Oh, okay. Alright. Wow. He just made that up. He's just like, I mismanaged my state, which I don't know where in that sentence mismanagement of a state came from, or anywhere he mentioned I need more power. Well, I guess the assumption is if you're going to do policies to improve climate change, that government involvement. I guess I understand that, but no, he was arguing that there's no reason to succumb to climate change. That was really all. That was it. That was all in that statement. He wasn't even. I don't know. He wasn't in that sentence. He didn't even mention policies or anything. So I don't know.
Right. You see how that works.
Yeah.
But as a factual matter, this is a crock. There is not a single scientist on Earth who knows whether or by how much these fires may have been, quote, exacerbated by warmer temperatures caused by climate change. All we have is conjecture from a handful of scientists and many politicians none of whom has reached a definitive conclusion. Daniel Swain, for example, he's a climate scientist at UCLA, conceded recently that it's, quote, hard to determine whether climate change played a role in sparking the fires. Okay. That's what science...
Yeah, I mean, no one knows for
is.
certainty.
It's gradual. It's incremental. Often it's tentative. We don't say things we don't know for certain. It's the opposite of politics. They have nothing in common. Meanwhile, back in the material world, investigators have determined that the massive El Dorado fire in California, which has torched nearly 14,000 acres, was caused by people setting off some kind of fireworks. And then on Wednesday, police announced that a criminal...
Okay, so here we go. This is important. This is important. The claim of climate scientists, it's usually not that the fires start because of climate change. That is not the claim whatsoever. A brief research will tell you that, and we'll show you that. Just do some research when you listen to Tucker Carlson. You'll find that most of the stuff he says is garbage. But brief research will tell you that no, the claim is not that climate change sparks wildfires, though I guess you could argue in a theoretical case that it can. Not important. It's the intensity of the fires. So whether lightning, a natural cause, or someone's birthday party or gender reveal party or whatever with a pyrotechnic caused this fire, or someone was trying to set fire to human remains, I don't know. Whatever caused this fire isn't important. What's important is that these fires are inevitable, but the intensity of these are insane comparatively to what they should be. And that may be because our climate, our temperatures, are impacting the way these fires manifest themselves. And one example of this is increasing temperatures reduces moisture on the ground. And in that video I showed you earlier, huge heat wave, the hottest on record, that increasing temperatures decreases moisture because moisture evaporates in hotter temperatures. And thus, more embers have room to grow, less resistance, and will spread and continue growing quicker due to the heat. That's a simple, very simple. I'm not a climatologist. I've just done a little look into this. Very simple determination. And you can look at that and you can see that there's models that predict that there's going to be more forest fires, wildfires, because certain climate conditions predispose for certain wildfire elements in greater intensity. And that's predicted. More acreage burned, just general things like that. So no one cares. No one, not a soul that I know. Not a soul cares how the fire started. That is blatant. Like, who cares? Who cares how the fire started? Honestly, who does? I'm careful with not a single. Tucker is really happy to use that phrase. But climate scientists aren't arguing that the climate is causing fires. It's that and though they may be, and there may be cases where that is, but in this case, it's about the intensity. The intensity of the fire is what's strange and abnormal and weird. But yeah, let's keep going. Let us keep going.
Investigation is underway into the massive Alameda fire in Ashland, Oregon, the southern part of the state. The sheriff there said it's too early to say what caused the fire, but he did say human remains were found at the suspected origin of it. So nothing is being ruled out tonight, including arson. As always with these things, the more you know, the more facts, the more details you know, the more complicated it becomes. So serious people, and there are still some, are just beginning to gather evidence to figure out how this started and thinking through how to prevent it going forward. But at the same time, unfortunately, our media are giving voice to deeply unserious people, partisan people, And they're on television, drowning out nuance. Don't worry about the facts, they say. Just trust us. The sky is orange over San Francisco because households making 40 grand a year made the mistake of voting Republican. Therefore, you must give us total control of the nation's economy. The Green New Deal. It's mandatory now. Watch amateur arson detective Nancy Pelosi explain.
Mother Earth is angry. She's telling us, whether she's telling us with hurricanes on the Gulf Coast, fires in the West, whatever it is, that the climate crisis is real and has an impact.
Mother Nature is angry? Please. When was the last time Nancy Pelosi went outside? Could she identify a single tree? No,
I'm not a fan of Nancy's.
All we know is what she said.
He goes on a huge rant about her here.
Of course it did. Because no matter what the natural disaster is, hurricanes, tornadoes, acne, whatever, climate change did it. In other words, you did it.
That is a problem. There are a lot of people that assume certain things and they apply climate change to almost everything. Well, there's not a lot of evidence. But we can look at trends and we can say, hey, this is abnormal for what it should be. And the increasing abnormalities that we're finding are becoming the new normal. This new normal isn't good. How do we change that?
Now keep in mind the person telling you this, Nancy Pelosi, owns at least 2 sub-zero freezers.
Again, the individual doesn't really, it's about corporations, not the individual.
She showed them to us on television. Each one costs $10,000.
She's so prestigious.
They use a lot of energy.
I don't know.
And like Barack Obama, like Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi constantly flies around the country privately between her multi-million-dollar estates. So if she cared about climate change, of course, she wouldn't be doing that. She doesn't. And neither do her supporters. Otherwise, they'd be massed outside of her estates in anger. They wouldn't be trying to destroy the hair salon that exposed her hypocrisy. But it's not about science. It's certainly not about the earth. Again, these are people who don't go outside, who know nothing about nature. It's about blaming and ritually humiliating.
Apparently, if you go outside, you know something about nature. You know, if you walk outside, you go hiking a little bit, you're automatically more of a scientist
who'd be
than anyone
financially
else.
ruined by the fracking ban he supports are the same Pennsylvanians who flipped Pennsylvania red in 2016 for the first time in a generation. Think they're holding a grudge? You bet they are. One of the reasons Joe Biden doesn't go outside, because his handlers won't allow him, is because when he does, he has a tendency to show pure, undisguised contempt for the middle class he supposedly cares so deeply about. In 2019, you'll remember, he openly mocked coal miners. He suggested they just get...
I'm sorry, this is ignorance on my part, but when were coal miners middle class?
Programming jobs once they're all fired. Watch.
I come from a family where, in an area where it's coal mining in Scranton. Anybody who could go down 300 to 3,000 feet in a mine, sure and hell can learn how to program as well.
December 2019, this is probably where dementia was setting in. But, okay. Yeah, it's pretty damning. I don't know what he was saying there. That's not the case.
Learn to code! Hilarious. Joe Biden should learn to code. Keep us posted on how that goes. But there isn't time for that. The world is ending. There's no time to pause and savor the deep layers of hypocrisy here. Stop. We're too busy. We're measuring our lives in minutes now. Last summer, Sandy Cortez did the math on all of this. She's good at math. And she calculated we only have 12 years left to live.
Dang.
The world is going to...
Politicians are jumping. Politicians are really, really trying to jump on the fear-mongering. Is there some level of alarmism that we, if that's a word, alarmism, that we need? Yeah, sure, for sure. Is there too much? Yeah. Do we still need to do something? Yes!
If we don't address
that didn't change.
Like, this is the war. This is our world.
I think she's quoting a study from the United Nations or something that was arguing that we only had 12 years or so. This isn't just made up. I think she had a study, but that study was criticized.
Or two.
Man, that sounds bad. And we're sorry to wreck your night on a Friday, but actually it's worse than that. Much worse than that. Consider this. Just 4 months after she gave us that warning, Sandy Cortez tweeted that we only have 10 years to cut carbon emissions in half. So think about that. We lost 2 years in just 4 months.
That's not the... Okay, I'm not even arguing that we have 10 or 15 years or 20 left. I don't know. I'm not in-depth in study that's predicting our doom. Those are usually probably hyperbolic. But at the end of the day, not exactly the same argument being made there. So let's say you say we have 12 years left at our current rate. Well, and you say at the end, also I'm changing hers, we have 5 years to change it. Well, those 5 years, you have something to do before you set in and lock down that 10-year doomsday date. It's sort of different, but it doesn't matter. It's still alarmist. So
at that rate, we could literally all be.
Your politicians should be really sticking to science. The science supports climate change. I don't know if it should be where there's real big consensus. I don't think there's a lot of consensus that doomsday is 10 years away, 12 years away, 15, 20 years away. Things will get worse. That's true. Things will get worse. We can't sit by and just think they're not going to.
Dead unless Joe Biden wins in November, which is, of course, what they're saying underneath it all. On Tuesday, California Governor Gavin Newsom pretty much said it out loud. Newsom has abandoned science completely. He did it long ago. Science is too stringent for Gavin Newsom, too Western, too patriarchal. Newsom is now a man of faith. He's decided that climate change caused all of this, and that's final. He's not listening to any other arguments. Watch.
I have no patience, and I say this lovingly, not as an ideologue, but as someone who prides himself on being open to argument, interested in evidence, but I quite literally have no patience for climate change deniers. It simply follows completely inconsistent, that point of view, with the reality on the ground.
I'm not an ideologue, but anyone who disagrees with
Tucker Carlson doesn't deny climate change, but he gets real, like, friendly with the idea, or friendly with people who don't, and really defends them a lot. Like
with me.
At the end of the day, that statement didn't really mean much. Some people don't have a tolerance to, in my case, I think there's certain things, like gravity. A theory of gravity has so much scientific consensus behind it that to listen to someone say, gravity doesn't exist, you might have a little patience. Just not much to give. Not much. If they were being serious and genuine and saying that they didn't believe in gravity, just a little. You might be a little like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? But we don't apply that to certain other theories. I branch that out into evolution. Because climate change hasn't been taught so well, I really want people educated about it. That's the thing. It's the amount of education someone has. Use those opportunities to educate someone, not dismiss them.
Must be ignored and eliminated. I don't want to hear any countervailing facts or evidence. None. But I'm not an ideologue. So people like Gavin Newsom has announced they don't want to listen to climate change deniers, which raises the central question, what is a climate change denier? Well, a climate change denier is anyone who thinks a ruling class has done a very poor job running their states, running their country, protecting the people they were hired to protect and watch over. So are we climate change deniers if we point out that the state of California has failed to implement meaningful deforestation measures that might have dramatically slowed the spread of these wildfires? Does that make us deniers? Because in 2018, a state oversight agency in California found that years of poor or non-existent...
No, it doesn't. Oh, boy. No. That does not make someone a denier. But when you constantly push the conversation in a direction away from the idea that climate change might be a contributing factor to why states need to implement more measures to prevent wildfires. When you when you have to just, when you don't want to explain why do states need to start implementing these things? Because the fires are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more intense. Why do we have to do that? That doesn't matter. States should have just been putting in, implementing and protecting its people with these techniques and things. I don't know. They should have been doing that. Well, why are we needing to do that? Well, when Tucker Carlson can admit that there may be a contributing factor like climate change behind that, then now he's not a climate change denier. But until he can, while he continues to dodge and to move the conversation another direction and twist the definition of climate denier, then yeah, he's probably objectively someone who doesn't believe in climate change. Unless he I've not watched this far. Unless he states after that he believes, then he's a climate denier.
Existing forest management policies in the Sierra Nevada forests had contributed to the fires. One of the few Republicans who still holds elected office in that state, State Assemblyman Heath Flora, last year called on using the state's $22 billion budget surplus, probably the last one in its history, to implement vegetation management, because fires don't obviously spread as well if they're not connected by huge forests which function as kindling. All of that is obvious, which means you can't say it out loud. The natural world, facts, nature itself is anathema to ideologues like this. The same people telling you they're protecting nature hate nature, everything about nature. Presumably you're also a climate change denier if you point out that...
Okay, sure, those things are obvious. Sure, you have certain things that can prevent and bring down the intensity of wildfires. But why are they getting so intense in the first place when these things don't have to be implemented? Why are they growing in intensity though environments are the same and not man-manipulated to prevent more wildfires? So as the things that are changing currently are rising temperatures and other climate factors that are increasing the intensity while humans don't have to intervene. Why are they increasing, and why do we have to intervene? Of course, yes, we can do things to slow them down or stop them in some ways, I'm sure. If we cut down all the forests, then yeah, sure, we won't have wildfires anymore. Oh, wow, great. If we just go in and just knock all the trees down, you'll never have a wildfire again in California. But guess what? You've depleted all your renewable resources. Great. Like, you gotta be careful with that. Like, understand where they're taking this, why they're taking in that direction, and what they're trying to get around. Because that's exactly what Tucker Carlson's doing. He's trying to navigate that loophole. He's trying to get around this idea that there's a cause that we don't control, that we are directly actually in control of, like climate change. He's trying to get around that and say, oh, there's other things that we can do. There's, wildfires are just connected. While looking around this idea or trying to get around this fact that these are growing in intensity, that they're getting worse, and they're getting worse on average, and they're getting worse everywhere throughout the United States, almost everywhere. I think I looked at a map. As I showed you, every year we're breaking records. The same conditions. Are humans we're doing something that's making them worse. We can make them better without addressing climate change, but that's treating the symptom. That's not treating the cause. You understand? A psychiatric analogy would be treating depression caused by a lack of socialization with antidepressants. So yeah, you can reduce the depression, theoretically, but you're not treating the cause. You're medically subsiding it. Do you see where that's a problem?
Wildfire fighting helicopters aren't in Oregon anymore. Where are they, you might wonder? They're in Afghanistan. So instead of dropping water to suppress the blazes, the Chinook helicopters are busy supplying a war effort that's been going on.
Yeah. Wait, hang on, hold on.
Years for no reason.
Yes,
so
bring
how'd
the
that
truth
happen?
back. Bring
And
them all
what's the
back.
effect of it? Those might be good questions to ask.
Thanks, Fox News.
I don't know, Gavin Newsom, Jay Inslee, governor of Oregon. Does anyone even care? And the answer, of course, is no. Nobody cares about the details at all. They don't care about the lives of the people they govern. They don't care about facts. They don't care about science. It was just last week that the mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti, admitted on the record that LA has become completely third world, which it has, unfortunately. Of course, Garcetti didn't blame himself
for the
degradation of one of the great American cities that he runs. No, he blamed you. You did it. Quote, "It's almost 3 p.m., Garcetti tweeted. Time to turn off major appliances. Set the thermostat to 78 degrees or use a fan instead.
This is a record-breaking heat wave. And people are blaming the changing infrastructure in California that is trying to become more renewable on these power outages when this is a record-breaking heat wave. This is not normal. This is not the norm, and it shouldn't be the norm. And we shouldn't start normalizing it.
Unplug any appliances you're not using. We need every Californian to help conserve energy. Please do your part." Oh, you got to wonder if you were able to go to Garcetti's house, which you're not. Can't get past the bodyguards you pay for. But if you were, is he following these recommendations? No. But it's not about him. It's about the...
He just said he was. You just assume that he's not. Why? No, I know he's not. Okay, sure, whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, it does. I guess if he's not, that's immoral, but you don't know that. You just assumed that the guy's not following the recommendations because he's got some sort of political motive. Okay?
People he's supposed to be helping, the ones he's now
what the
blaming.
Hell?
He wants them to suffer to fix a problem that he and his fellow Democrats in California created. Even now, as residents are facing sweeping power outages in addition to the wildfires. In the meantime, Gavin Newsom has vowed that 50% of the energy in California, 50% of their grid, will be based on, quote, renewable sources within a decade. That means sources like wind and solar power. The truth is you can't dial up wind or solar in moments of extreme demand. Moments like right now, during the heat wave sweeping California. Newsom was asked last month whether he would consider revising his stance, given that the blackouts have left millions of Californians without power and presumably killed people, because that's what happens when you don't have electricity. And Newsom responded this way, quote, "We are going to radically change the way we produce and consume energy."
This is another normal heat wave.
We're not changing. In other words, the blackouts will continue until morale improves.
All right, that's the end of it. All right, I'm done. That was fun, though. I had fun. I actually did have fun. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to this. I hope you enjoyed. It's going to be a little bit of a long upload, but thank you. Thank you. Hope you had a good time. I will see you in the next thing. Tucker Carlson's probably going to keep popping up because Tucker is fun. He's just fun. But I will see you all later, and thank you. Thank you for watching.